Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Today we are going to discuss the two-stroke engine. Actually, the last day discussed about four-stroke engines and the PV indicator diagram, actual pressure volume indicator diagram, and also we have discussed about the valve timing diagram. I think you can remember also. I've given you three questions also on that, and discuss those answers also. And then the last class I'm talking about, we have considered the comparison between the spark ignition and compression ignition engines. And we have listed 9 points. Lastly, one more point should be there, which I omitted, but I discussed it. That is regarding application. You please note that yesterday's note, I mean the last day's note, there we have compared between the spark ignition and compression ignition engines, and we have discussed 9 points of differences. But the last point is about application. And the application wise, the spark ignition engines are used for low duty jobs, like in mopeds, scooters, and say mobiles, motorbikes, mobikes, and lawn mowers, etc. And the CI engines are used for heavy duty applications like buses, trucks, cars, and ships, aircrafts, etc. So that point which I missed the last class, that I told you today. Now today we are going to talk about the two-stroke engines, and then we'll have a discussion about two-stroke and four-stroke engines comparison. And this will complete this particular chapter, that is on IC engine basic concepts and the different types of IC engines. So first, let me tell you about this sketch. This sketch that we can see in the screen. It is figure 20.1. It is written here. This sketch I have taken from the book by V. Ganesan. And you can, if you have that book, you can get this figure 20.1. It may change. This is the chapter on two-stroke engines. You can get this sketch there also. This is a two-stroke engine, means that the total cycle will be completed in 2 journeys of the piston. Each journey is called one stroke, and one journey means one dead center to another dead center. And here you can see, if you look at this, the name of this engine is crankcase scavenged two-stroke engine. Crankcase scavenged two-stroke engine. That because there are some varieties of two-stroke engines, but out of that, this crankcase scavenged two-stroke engine is more popular, and we have only tried to explain that. And as you see here, we have, I am trying to show you the configuration. We have the cylinder. This is the cylinder, and there is the spark plug on the top. This is the spark plug, and 2 views are shown. I mean, rather 2 sectional views are shown, front sectional views in 2 positions of the piston are shown. This is one position of the piston. This is the other position. And the piston is starting from here. This is the piston body. It starts from here and it extends up to this point. This entire thing is called the piston. So it is also a cylinder basically. It is also a cylinder sort of a thing. Here also we have the piston. This piston is called a trunk type piston. And why the piston is given this sort of a shape? Because we want the piston to ideally fit with the cylinder. I mean, because the piston and cylinder both are cylindrical shaped objects, but we want the piston axis and the cylinder axis should be exactly aligned. There should not be any misalignment. So they should be coaxial. In order to ensure that, we have made the piston of certain length. This length of the piston is made so that it always gets good support from the cylinder, and there is no misalignment between the axis of the piston and the cylinder. Now, this line, you can see, this is a one dead center, you can say, top dead center. And then there is another, I think, not here, but somewhere here, there will be the bottom dead center. And in this scheme, we have got another body on top of the piston. This is called the deflector. This is a deflector. Deflector is a three-dimensional projection on the top surface of the piston. Objective of the deflector is that it deflects the charge. And the bottom side, you can see, open side of the piston. This is the connecting rod, and this is your crank pin axis. This is the crank pin, and this is the crank. This is the crank. This is the crankshaft, and the radius is called the crank radius. Axis distance between the crankshaft and the crankshaft and the crank pin. The distance is the crank radius. So next part is the crankcase. This is the crankcase. You can see this three-dimensional space covered by the casing of the engine. This is the crankcase. And here we have got a valve which is called Reed valve operated intake port. Here you can see in this type of two-stroke engine, we do not have any valves. In the four-stroke engines, we had the suction valve and the discharge valve. So the poppet type valves are there. So unlike in a four-stroke engine, where we have two valves, the suction and the discharge valve, two openings are provided on the cylinder head in the four-stroke engine. And in those two openings, two valve bodies are there, which are called poppet type valves. And the operation of the valves, the opening and the closing of the valves are done by a valve operating mechanism. Now, I am just referring to the four-stroke engine, the difference in construction. Here in this case, we do not have any kind of valve, poppet type valve. So how the charge will enter and how the charge will leave, for that here we have this kind of arrangement, which we call the intake port. Instead of valve, we call the port, P-O-R-T, port. This is one port. This is also another port, which is called the transfer exhaust port. Exhaust port. This is the intake port, and this is the transfer port. Port means basically a port is an opening. It is just an opening. It is just an opening. Now, this crank is rotating in the clockwise direction. Now, how the operation occurs? As I have said, there is a two-stroke engine. That means there will be only movement of the piston will be only twice. One is from the top to the bottom dead center, and from the bottom dead center to the top dead center. So within these two journeys, the cycle has to be completed. First thing which you see here is that the first thing that we can see is the let us say that the piston is moving upward, right? Piston is moving upward. Now this one is a piston is moving downward, of course. Let's just consider the piston is moving upward. That means this is the thing which is moving in the clockwise direction, and it is moving upward. When it moves upward, what happens? The gas which is there in the crankcase, that volume expands because the piston is moving upward, and this piston body is covering this port. This is called the transfer port. Because the piston body is quite long, the top portion of it covers the port initially, and as a result, what happens? The volume of the gas inside this portion and inside the crankcase, this volume gradually increases as the piston moves upward. So the pressure in this region decreases, and therefore this valve will open inward. Now this is a valve, we call it valve, or we can call it port also. This is not a puppet type valve which is there in a four-stroke engine. This is a kind of diaphragm, you can say, diaphragm type of valve. It's just a plate which is pressure operated. So when the pressure this side is decreased, pressure on this side is increased. Now what is there on this side? This side is connected to the carburetor. This side is connected to the pipeline, and on that pipeline is sitting carburetor. Carburetor is the device where air and fuel are getting mixed. Now, after mixing, the mixture is coming to this region. Now, this region is pressurized, and this region, when the pressure drops, this thing, this is called a reed valve operated intake port. Actually, you can call it reed type port. So this thing is a spring sort of thing. It is a plate, but which is, diaphragm type. So which opens inward under pressure difference, and the charge will enter into this and will occupy this region. Now, when it occupies this region, piston is actually moving upward. It is covering the transfer port, and it is also covering the exhaust port. And suppose the piston body has moved upward to such an extent that it has crossed the transfer port and the exhaust port also. Right? It's still moving upward. That means whatever charge is there is getting compressed as the piston is moving upward. And when the piston is sufficiently up, the pressure here inside the chamber builds up, and the spark is activated. As you know, that spark ignition system is a battery operated ignition system, and we can activate the spark at our sweet will. When we'll start the spark, that we can control by electronic circuit nowadays. So we will operate the spark only when we want the spark to happen. That much control is there. So when the piston is moving upward and it has come up to such a position, right? It has come up to such a position. The deflector on top of it is above this. So the volume of the charge is very much compressed. Pressure is very much high. Temperature of this gas is also very much high, because the gas pressure temperature, when the pressure increases, temperature also increases as a result of compression. Then the spark is initiated, and that will allow the gas to have a sudden kick of energy in the form of combustion of the fuel, and it will expand. When it expands, pushes the piston down. So that is the thing. So first we started from here, piston has moved upward. Now the piston is coming down. When it is coming down, as it is coming down, the piston will clear this opening and this opening. Both these openings it will clear. So when it first of all the piston as it comes down, as the piston comes in its downward journey, first it opens the exhaust port. That time the transfer port is not opened because the location of the ports are such that when the piston comes down, first the exhaust port is opened, right? When the exhaust port is opened, the gas will rush out through the exhaust port and that will cause the exhaust process. So that is the exhaust process. The gas will rush out through the exhaust port. Now the pressure inside this chamber will gradually go down, will be down. The process is very fast, so the pressure suddenly decreases. Now the piston on its downward journey, it is still moving down and it opens this port. This is the transfer port, as you can see here. It opens the transfer port. So this position is one position of the piston and this is the next position, you can say. This position is the next position. Both are downward positions. So when the piston is coming down, it was coming down like this. When it was covering the transfer port and it was coming down, then what happened to the gas here? Here the gas is pressurized, becoming pressurized. And because it is pressurized, it is closing this valve or port. This is getting closed. And this gas is pressurized. When the piston just comes down and uncovers the transfer port, the gas enters and occupies this volume. Now the gas, when it enters like this, the gas enters, it strikes the dead end of the cylinder, takes a rebound. Now in order to facilitate the movement of the gas, we have got a deflector here. We do not want the gas to just come in any direction. We want the gas to move after entering into the cylinder in a predefined position. This is called the this kind of movement of the gas is desired in order to initiate the process which is called scavenging. The scavenging, as you know, is a process where we are utilizing this gas to drive out the products of combustion. As you know, when the piston was coming down, when this port was not covered, was not uncovered, the gas was moving out. This is the exhaust process, but the exhaust process was not complete when the piston uncovers this port. And the gas enters, takes this path along the deflector, moves to the top of the cylinder, takes a rebound, and while rebounding, while taking the rebound, it drives away the products of combustion through this. So this kind of operation is called scavenging. So this is the, so therefore this is the downward journey of the piston as we are discussing. The initial part of the downward journey was where the spark and the combustion and the expansion did occur. Then after expansion, the exhaust, and simultaneously after that exhaust, the intake and the scavenging took part. All these things in one journey of the piston. Like if you compare with these two-stroke, the four-stroke engine, there the suction is a different stroke, a compression is a different, expansion is different, exhaust is different. Here in one stroke we have got the exhaust. Some portion of the stroke is utilized for power generation. So when the piston is up to here, this movement is used for power generation. Then it is exhaust and suction also here. This is the gas intake is also occurring. So power stroke, exhaust and suction, all are occurring when the piston is going down. And when the piston is moving up, when the piston is going down here, and when the piston is moving upward, then this portion, the pressure drops. Here the suction occurs. This port is closed, and when the piston moves up, this intake is up to here. Then the piston compresses the gas. So one stroke is dedicated to intake charge inhalation inside the crankcase and compression, and the other stroke is dedicated to power generation and exhausting the gas and intaking the gas and carrying out the scavenging process. So that makes the cycle complete. That is why it's called a two-stroke crankcase scavenged engine. Why crankcase scavenged? Because this is the crankcase, and the crankcase, through that crankcase, the gas is coming, and the scavenging is done by the intake charge which is coming from the crankcase. So it is a crankcase scavenged engine. Now this, of course, is a very interesting configuration of the engine, where we do not have any valve, we have only ports. We do not have any valve operating mechanism. We do not have to lose power for driving the valve operating mechanism. And we have only two strokes for a cycle. Each stroke will be contributing one power stroke and one ignition system, one combustion. So this is a two-stroke engine. And tell me, this is interesting, and you have to keep it in mind, unless it comes in your Viva, VOC, and etc., Grand Viva, or also it may come in the interviews also. For any company, two-stroke, they can ask you, have you seen a two-stroke engine, or do you know about a two-stroke engine? How will you explain the functioning of a two-stroke engine? This sketch you should have in your mind, and you should be able to reproduce it as and when required. Tell me if you have understood. Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All of you have understood?
Yes, sir.
So last part একটু আরেকবার বলবেন?
Hello?
So last part একবার বলবেন?
Last part হচ্ছে, অ্যাকচুয়ালি এটা আমি আবার বলছি, দুটোই স্ট্রোক আছে, তো আমি দুটো স্ট্রোকই আরেকবার বলছি, মানে এইটা এমন যে মাঝে মাঝে আমার নিজেরও কনফিউশন হয়ে যায়, যে না বলতে গেলে আমাকে একদম ওই দুটো স্ট্রোকই বলতে হবে। মানে
ওকে স্যার।
একটা স্ট্রোক হচ্ছে আপওয়ার্ড, একটা হচ্ছে ডাউনওয়ার্ড। অ্যাকচুয়ালি এইটা হচ্ছে, এই কনফিগারেশন যেটা দেখিয়েছে, এটা হচ্ছে actually এই ছবিটার সঙ্গে you see there is a contradiction between this part and
স্যার এটা অ্যারোর সাথে ভুল হচ্ছে।
this arrow.
স্যার
There is a contradiction. This arrow should be in the opposite direction, right?
হ্যাঁ স্যার, হ্যাঁ স্যার,
This, I mean,
ডাইরেকশনের সাথে অপোজিট।
no, just a minute.
থ্যাংক ইউ।
No, this arrow actually indicates the direction of rotation of the crankshaft. That is okay. This is okay. This direction is okay. And this one is your upward journey. Okay. No, the downward journey. This is piston is moving downward. So piston is moving downward means this connecting rod should be inclined not in this fashion. It would be just the opposite, like this. You understand? When the piston is moving downward, this connecting rod should be like this, and crank pin should move like this. Then it should come to this position. In this position corresponds to the movement of this thing upward. That means the movement of this thing upward is this. That means what I am telling you, see, this portion and this portion are not matching, right? That means this thing, this position of the connecting rod and this position of the crank should be here, with this position of the piston, with this particular position of the piston, these two things should be here, and this position of the connecting rod and crank should come here with this particular position of the piston. Then it will be perfect. You understand? Have you understood this? I want to tell you that when the piston, see, if you look at this arrowhead, this movement of the gas will be only when the piston is moving down. So when the piston moves down, then the crank and connecting rod should be like this. And this is, of course, this is also moving down, of course. And moving up, they have not drawn.
Sir, both are moving down. Both are moving down.
Both are moving down. Both are moving down, but one is slightly instant wise. I'll just tell you. The left hand sketch is 100% okay. You keep it. But the piston is moving down. Left hand sketch. Piston is moving down. This portion is okay. Right hand sketch is also piston is moving down, and this part should be like this. Only thing is that this connecting rod should be slightly lower, and this point should be here. This point should be somewhere here. You understand? Both are basically showing the movement of the piston going down. Slight error is there here, which I can correct in the next class, or I can correct in the actual class. This is okay. This you can take as okay. But now talking about the two strokes. So one stroke is this, one stroke is this, one stroke is this. This is one stroke, same stroke is this. But this is one instant of the piston. In that stroke, this is one instant. In the same stroke, this is another instant just after this instant. This instant and this, if you think, this instant is slightly after this particular instant. You follow? Suppose this stroke is from here to a certain point. I mean, this edge have to come here. So this position is later position. This is previous position. Okay. So what happens during this journey? During this journey, the first part, the compressed charge is ignited. It expands. So when suppose when the piston was here, it is coming down. It expands. The gas expands, produces power. Then the piston comes up to here. Still it is producing power. Then the piston comes here, opens the exhaust port, the gas exhausts. Transfer port is still closed. Piston still comes downward. Then it forces this gas through the transfer port into this region and take a rebound, and then come out and carry out the scavenging of the exhaust products of combustion. So that is the downward journey completed. In the downward journey, we have got the spark, ignition, combustion, expansion, after expansion, exhaust, then intake and scavenging. Everything is done in one journey, downward journey. And the upward journey, for which the proper diagram is not shown here, the upward journey will be when this gas enters, the piston covers this port, it is moving upward. The gas enters, fills up this, and the piston moves up and up and up and compresses the gas. So in one stroke, it just carries out compression of the gas inside the cylinder. and intake of the fresh charge into the crankcase. Intake of fresh charge into crankcase and compression of the charge in the cylinder. That will be in one stroke. And the second stroke corresponds to compression of the charge in the crankcase, combustion, power stroke, exhaust, and scavenging. Everything occurs the other stroke. So this is a two-stroke operation. Now tell me the diagram wise, as I was telling you, the left-hand side diagram is okay. Right-hand side diagram, this portion should be changed. This we will be able to do sometime later. This portion has to be changed. Other things are okay. And this explains the, you can see your textbook also whether they have changed the diagram or not. This is a two-stroke engine. Have you understood this?
Sir, can you please explain the function of deflector?
Yeah, function of deflector is basically, you see the, when the, sorry. When the piston is coming downward, now it pressurizes this crankcase gas, and then the crankcase gas moves up and up and up, but it cannot enter until and unless this port is open. Piston is coming down, but so long as this port is not open, the crankcase charge is compressed. I mean, it is pressurized, but it cannot enter. Now, this charge consists of fuel and air. Now, when this piston comes further down, this transfer port becomes open. Then the air-fuel mixture enters through this transfer port. And after opening, we want a process which is called scavenging. Now, scavenging means driving away of the products of combustion of the previous cycle by the intake charge. That is called scavenging, right? Now, for that, we want the intake charge to move in a definite pattern. If the intake charge enters here and goes into this direction, mixes with the exhaust products of combustion, then the scavenging will not be effectively done. In order to carry out this scavenging process, we have put a deflector here. Deflector is a three-dimensional metallic body. Now the deflector has a curved part here, another curved part here. So the gas upon entering, it will take this conduit and it will be guided upward. And with like a jet, because it is compressed, this was pressurized, nah? This is pressurized. So this will move upward and this will strike against the cylinder head. Then it will take a rebound. As it takes the rebound, there is another surface of the deflector. It comes like this. When it rebounds, it cannot go the other direction. It cannot go in the direction of the entering charge. When it takes a rebound, it will come like this and it will go out through the exhaust port. So that is how the deflector is basically facilitating the scavenging process. That is why the deflector is doing it.
Thank you, sir.
To guide the intake charge so that the scavenging is properly done. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now come to the next part. We are going to a comparison of the 4 and 2-stroke cycle engines. This is again taken from your textbook. Why I have taken, because it is written there, so I didn't take the hassle of writing it once again. 4-stroke and 2-stroke engines. Here they have made a comparison. You see, one way is, if you look at it, comparison of two things, it's slightly, I mean, monotonous for everybody, but this is very interesting. This 4-stroke, 2-stroke engine comparison is very interesting because the great debate which is going on all over the world regarding the use of four-stroke and two-stroke engines, where we should go for four-stroke, where we should go for two-stroke engines, and how to replace certain kinds of engines with some other kinds of engines. All these things are coming. So for that, we should have a good idea about four-stroke and two-stroke. Not only that, we have a good idea about compression ignition and spark ignition engines. You have to understand that spark ignition engines and compression ignition engines are two major kinds of internal combustion engines, but I mean, within spark ignition engine, there may be four-stroke spark ignition engines, there may be two-stroke spark ignition engines. Within compression ignition engines, there may be four-stroke compression ignition engines and two-stroke compression ignition engines. So two-stroke and four-stroke are also another basic category. As you know, the difference in their name arises from the fact that four-stroke engines, I have explained also in the previous class, that 4 strokes or 4 journeys of the piston are required in order to complete one cycle of the engine. As you know, what is a cycle? Cycle is one is called a thermodynamic cycle, and that's called a mechanical cycle. Thermodynamic cycle is a cycle consisting of a number of thermodynamic processes, one after the other in a sequence, so that at the end of all the processes, we come back to the initial state. That is the thermodynamic cycle. And in case of the air standard cycle, thermodynamic cycle is a closed cycle. But in our case, this is the actual engine cycle. We have read the actual engine cycle in the PV diagram. We have read the last class when we discussed the valve timing diagram also. There we have seen that this is also a cycle, but this is completed with the participation of the nature, because there is suction, there is exhaust, there is fuel introduction, there is combustion, all these things are coming on. Now, within that framework, that is also called a mechanical cycle. Mechanical cycle because it is a thermodynamic cycle, no doubt, but not a thermodynamic closed cycle. It is called a mechanical cycle where 4 mechanical operations are required. Like suction is one operation, compression is one operation, expansion of power is one operation, exhaust is one operation, but these operations are such that at the end of all such operations, we are, I mean, it's not that we take the suction after we complete the exhaust. It's not that. That is the main difference between the thermodynamic cycle and the mechanical cycle. The thermodynamic cycle means that we have to complete the exhaust, then we take the suction. In the mechanical cycle, exhaust process is going on, then within that the suction also starts, and the suction drives out the products, combustion products of the exhaust gases. That is called scavenging. This scavenging process is a part of the actual cycle or the mechanical cycle of the. Now come back to 4-stroke and 2-stroke engines. You see the 4-stroke engines, first point is the thermodynamic cycle is completed in 4 strokes. Can you read this? Can you read this? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Then I'll just read out and explain this thing. First point is that the thermodynamic cycle is completed in 4 strokes of the piston. 4 strokes means that the crank will have to rotate 2 revolutions. That is 360 plus 360 degree, that is 720 degrees of the crankshaft. Thus, 1 power stroke is obtained in every 2 revolutions of the crankshaft. In every 2 revolutions of the crankshaft, we are getting 1 power stroke. In a 2-stroke engine, the thermodynamic cycle is completed in 2 strokes, 2 journeys of the piston, or in 1 revolution of the crankshaft. Thus, 1 power stroke is obtained in each revolution of the crankshaft. Now, this is important. Apparently, it means that there is only one power stroke in 2 revolutions for the 4-stroke engine, whereas one power stroke in one revolution of the two-stroke engines. So if we compare these two engines at the same RPM, that is, suppose we have a 2000 RPM four-stroke engine and a 2000 RPM two-stroke engine, then the two-stroke engine will produce twice the power because it will have double number of power strokes. But actually it is not so, because here the power stroke is not occupying the entire stroke length. It is, as you can see, if you come back to this diagram once again, the power stroke is only a partial power stroke. It is not, I mean, from one dead center to the other dead center. That is the total stroke. Power stroke is only a certain portion of the stroke. So in a four-stroke engine, the power stroke is for a complete journey of the piston. Here it is not so. Now here it is written, because of the above, that means because in the four-stroke engine there are two revolutions of the crankshaft for one stroke, one power stroke. So the turning moment is not so uniform, and hence a heavier flywheel is required. This I'll explain. Turning moment is the torque which is coming on the crankshaft. You know what is a torque. So torque is responsible for rotation of the crankshaft. The turning moment or torque that is produced on the crankshaft is not uniform. It is varying. In a four-stroke engine also it is varying. In a two-stroke engine also it is varying. Why it is varying? I tell you. You see, if you remember the suction stroke, the compression stroke, the expansion stroke, and the exhaust stroke, out of that only the expansion stroke is power producing. Other strokes are power consuming. So the turning moment or the torque that is responsible for the rotation of the crankshaft will not be same everywhere. For every angular rotation of the crankshaft, each degree rotation of the crankshaft, if you plot the torque which is responsible, T versus theta, if you plot, you'll find that T is changing much faster. I mean, within 0 to 720 degree of theta, the value of T changes quite a lot. And for a two-stroke engine, 0 to 360 degree theta, the value of T changes also quite a lot. But the reason is that, you see, for a two-stroke engine, since 720 degree means 360 plus 360, so the variation of 360 degree, variation of torque in a particular 360 degree, and the variation of torque in the second 360 degree, that will make the average variation of torque much less. Do you appreciate this point? See, if you have a 720 degree cycle, and if there is a variation of torque, means what? There is a maximum torque and there is a minimum torque. So the variation is maximum torque and minimum torque, maximum torque minus minimum torque, that is the variation. That variation is occurring for 720 degrees rotation. And in two-stroke engine, in 720 degree rotation, there are two such cycles. So the maximum minus minimum torque, that thing occurs twice. So the average value of torque variation, average value will be the average of these two variations. It will be less. So the average torque variation is less in case of a two-stroke engine than in case of a four-stroke engine. And there is a device called the flywheel, which is a big wheel having a big mass, which is used in order to absorb the torque variation in the crankshaft. That flywheel will be of lower mass. Lighter flywheel will be required in case of a two-stroke engine than in case of a four-stroke engine. So this is one difference between the two. Next point, I'm just coming. Because of one power stroke, for 2 revolutions in a 4-stroke engine. Power produced for same size of engine is less, or for the same power the engine is heavier and bulkier. This is obvious. For a 2-stroke engine, if you have 1 power stroke for 1 revolution, so power produced for same size of engine. Suppose if you compare 2 engines, one is 4-stroke engine, another is a 2-stroke engine. We are comparing 2 engines. One is a 4-stroke engine, another is a 2-stroke engine, and both are having same size. Same size means what? Same diameter of piston, same diameter of cylinder, same size of the engine. Then they are saying that the power produced for the same size of engine is twice for this than the 2-stroke engine. Than the 4-stroke engine, power produced in a 2-stroke engine is twice for the same size of the engine, or for the same power, or for producing the same power, the engine is lighter and more compact. If you compare 2 engines producing same power, if you compare 2 engines producing same power, then the 2-stroke engine will be lighter and more compact. Because of 1 power stroke in 2 revolutions, lesser cooling and lubrication requirements, low rate of wear and tear. Because the more the number of power strokes, the more will be the heat generation inside the cylinder. So if more heat generation is there, so more lubrication requirement, more cooling requirement is there. Here in the 2-stroke engine, because of 1 power stroke in 1 revolution, greater cooling and lubrication requirement. Because here power strokes are more frequent, so more combustion is there. So because of more combustion rate, higher rate of cooling, higher rate of lubrication, higher wear and tear is required. 4-stroke engines have valves and valve operating mechanisms for opening, closing of the intake exhaust valves. 2-stroke engines do not have any valves, only ports. So, and this no valve operating mechanism is there. So the power lost in operation of the valve operating mechanism is not present. Also, the cost is also less. The weight or inertia of the engine is also less. Because of comparatively higher weight and complicated valve mechanism, initial cost of the engine is more for a 4-stroke engine. For a 2-stroke engine, because of lightweight, why lightweight? Because there are no valves, no valve operating mechanism. So the engine is lighter, and the engine is simple also. Simplicity, due to the absence of valve operating mechanism, initial cost of the engine is less. Volumetric efficiency is more due to more time of induction, because in a 4-stroke engine, 1 stroke is dedicated to suction. In a 2-stroke engine, only a portion of 1 stroke is dedicated to suction. So the volumetric efficiency is more in case of a 4-stroke engine. For 2-stroke engine, it is less, low due to lesser time of induction. Thermal efficiency for a 4-stroke engine is higher because the volumetric efficiency is higher. So more mass of air, more mass of fuel is inducted. That is why thermal efficiency is higher. More power is produced, more fuel is burnt, and part load efficiency is also high because the engine, part load means when the engine is not producing its maximum power. That time also the efficiency, that is output by input ratio, is higher. In case of 2-stroke engine, thermal efficiency is lower. Why it is lower? Because here the volumetric efficiency is less, so the engine admits less amount of charge, less amount of air, less amount of fuel, less combustion energy is released, and because there is more loss of heat due to radiation, So thermal efficiency is lower and part load efficiency is poor. Also, due to scavenging, some portion of charge is lost. And when the scavenging operation is done, there is inlet charge is flushing out the products of combustion. Some intake charge is also lost. And here, the four-stroke engine is used where efficiency is important. Efficiency is important, that is in cars, buses, trucks, tractors, where efficiency is important. Industrial engines, aeroplanes, power generators, etc. There four-stroke engines are used. And two-stroke engines are used where low cost, compactness, and lightweight are important. That is in mopeds, scooters, motorcycles, and sprayers. They are used. So this is the application. So with this, we have done the basic concepts of engines, the nomenclature of the engine parts, and the major types of engines. You see, we have discussed the SI and CI engines, two-stroke, four-stroke engines. But apart from that, there is other variety of engines like single-cylinder, multi-cylinder engines. We have got inline engines. So those things, you just read the textbook by V. Ganesan, you will be coming to know about it. Next, we'll go into the engine performance parameters. What are the performance parameters? How we'll record these performance parameters? That is our next topic of discussion. And this first chapter we have completed, basic concepts. Second chapter we have completed, that is air standard cycle. Third chapter will now start, that is on carburation. And after carburation, we'll discuss the performance testing. So today we have to stop here. Okay. Do you have any question on today's class? I'll send these notes, of course, this is also from the textbook, but for your reference, I'll send it once again to you. Any question?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. Then we are going to close our class now. Okay. You've got another class from 8. So